right, the first item on our agenda is to reopen, not reopen, rather to deal with the continued public hearing relative to the 2016 budget for the general fund and other budgetary funds. I will state right up front that we're not quite solid on our budget yet. We've been meeting. We met yesterday and we're getting very close. We've got a few more issues that we need to consider and some information that we're still working on. And so we will be asking to continue the approval of that. But if there's any public comments that people would care to make today, I can't give you the details on the final budget because we don't yet have those finalized. So we will be back next week relative to doing that, assuming we get a motion of that nature. But otherwise, we don't have the numbers to approve today. Is there anyone who cares to make public comment? We will be continuing this public hearing.
Public comment. This is the public hearing for the budget only.
Public hearing, yeah.
Yes, thank you. My name is Mark Allen. I represent Protect and Preserve American Fork Canyon. Sometimes my filter is thin, and it's going to be that way today. I'm going to speak pointedly, not because I take any pleasure in being here. I've got other places that I'd like to be. I think there are some appropriate places to put some increase, and I think an increase for the commissioner specifically is inappropriate at this time. A year ago, you voted yourself a $15,000 pay raise, and on the Rights to Know page, it shows that your compensation now, Larry, is about $156,000 a year. I'm looking at you because you're the chair. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
So
I will. I'll correct what you just said in just a minute. But
you can correct whatever you want. I'm just telling you.
Correct. I'll clarify.
I'm just telling you what data points I have. Yeah. We would like to see some cameras recording in this building so we can have open, public, transparent processes. I'd like to see salaries deferred and applied towards a camera system so people countywide that can't come at 9 o'clock in the morning can know what's going on in the commission places. In light of things that were on KUTV News with Rod Decker this past week, I am very troubled. Find out about a trip that you took with your wife to Switzerland with Ian Cumming on 2 jets with private chefs. Nobody knows. You said you didn't know who paid for it. I'm very concerned about that. You mentioned when I came in that you're going to provide detail on that.
I said I'm responding to it.
You said you'll respond to that. We've got the same problem on the Salt Lake side. So rather than improve budgets, I'm going to use the word R, the R word, which is I think you ought to recuse yourself from anything to do with American Fork Canyon. And if this financial trail doesn't show appropriate use of your position and maybe some undue influence from Ian Cummings or whoever on that thing, that it's time for you to retire or resign. And I don't say that with any joy whatsoever, but I'm very troubled with what we've been seeing. In 8 months, I've asked for one map showing ownership. You guys are the ones in charge. Who owns the land up American Fork Canyon? You guys are the guys in charge. If you were my employee, I would fire you because I can't get one map of who owns land. You guys are in charge. We've asked for a committee, citizens-based committee. We've asked for some funding to spearhead a planning committee. Inaction is action. The enemy advances when we're inactive. In 8 months, I have not seen one thing done by this commission proactively to protect American Fork Canyon. We've got 10,000 people in our group that want leaders. You can't justify a salary increase until we can see some leadership. Everybody else that is in the budget, fine, but your portion, if you were to vote in favor of giving yourselves a pay raise right now, it would be incredulous, totally incredulous. So I'm saying this all due respect.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And we want to see some proactive things done. But please, do not give yourself a pay raise until these other things have been taken care of. Thank you.
And that is not a foregone conclusion at this point. That was just notice saying that it could be considered as part of the normal process. So we will do it. Let me clarify the one point you made. Last year when we did that, it was a transfer from benefits to salary. It was not an increase in compensation for the bulk of that 15 that you talked about. You need to understand, I'm glad to go through it with you sometime, but you need to understand that that is not as it appears and as you represented it. So,
It wasn't increased. It was increased. It's not.
well, by one step. But the 15,000 came out of benefits to salary bill.
No, I
Let's not
understand,
confuse
but I
that.
just want to make sure that this, if there was an increase, you have matching and everything else that's in there. It's more than just.
But that was taken into account in the amount that was increased. Okay? You need to understand the facts.
No. Don't go there like that. I understand the facts. I just want to make sure we have them all out, not just half of them.
I said that I told the truth.
It was increased.
I said that.
2.3.
I said that.
All right.
My name is Heidi Baldery, and I actually have a master's in human resource management, so I'm very familiar with compensation. And so what we're talking about here today, whether you're talking about your total compensation package or the exact dollar amount, what I need to let everyone know, and I'm sure you may know if you've done your homework, is that your salaries are not in line with the median average salary for the United States, for the state of Utah, for Utah County Commissioner positions. So when you elected to give yourself a 15% pay increase, whether it was in benefits or dollars, you were already above the norm. I think you need to adjust your salaries downward to more accurately reflect the job that you're doing. Besides that, if you're also aware with forms of compensation, you have what's called merit-based pay or performance-based pay. And based on the performance that I've seen from some of our commissioners, I would recommend a decrease in pay. Specifically, you were elected to represent the electorate, and I have not seen two of you do that, and specifically with BRT. If if you work in a team, we want to elect good team leaders, and leading your team in a direction away from the desires of your constituents is not helpful. We hired you, and we can fire you. And I would strongly urge you to not give yourself a pay raise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I had the wonderful opportunity, Nathan Ivey, I'm from Benjamin. And Commissioners, this morning I had the wonderful opportunity, like I do every single morning, to get up and to feed my livestock, to get my kids ready to go on the bus. Let me tell you a little something about farming this morning. It was cold. I got to trample through some snow. I got to battle hungry horses. I got to battle hungry cows. And you know what? My cattle prices have hit here in the last few months, and they've gone down. My commodity prices for corn and for hay have gone down. My parents who helped me run the farm are on a fixed income, and they didn't get a pay raise. They didn't get a cost of living increase. Larry, you can shake your head. They didn't get to take from one account and add it to another and say they didn't get a you're sitting there shaking your head. They didn't get to juggle money around and then all of a sudden try and hide it as not a pay increase, okay? We all understand the process of good fiscal responsibility. When you look at your responsibility is to represent your constituents. I'm one of your constituents, and my neighbors are your constituents. In fact, my neighbors that make up the agricultural community in this county make up the largest agricultural producing group of people in the state of Utah, and we ain't getting a pay raise this year. So the fact that this is even being considered, and I have to leave my work, I have to leave my dad sitting with my kids at the bus stop because the bus is coming late, is absolutely asinine to me that I have to show up here. You guys shouldn't even be considering this kind of stuff when we look at the overall economic situation and when you run on platforms of sound fiscal responsibility, Mr. Graves. You sat there in meeting after meeting and lied about your intentions to be a fiscal conservative to people. And you know your job's in trouble when re-election time comes. So do something responsible and stick up for what you said in those meetings. Actually be fiscally responsible. Give yourself a decrease in pay because that's what's absolutely necessary. The fact is, you represent citizens. The citizens in this county only make around $50,000 to $40,000 a year. You guys are double that. How can you justify that? How can you justify sitting in a cushy chair in a heated building making double what the people you're elected to represent make, and then saying, well, maybe we should give ourselves another little pay increase?
It's a public comment, but this is not a debate.
Well,
so-
I'm letting you think about it. And I want the people in this audience to think about it. And as you can see, there's plenty of us that are willing to show up and are concerned about it. And I hope you'll do the morally right thing and stick to your principles and be fiscally conservative and represent the people that you're elected to represent.
Very good, thank you.
I'm Kathy Heinmarsh from Provo, Utah. I don't know if I need anything else.
No,
Okay.
just make sure you talk close to the microphone.
I just want to know what is your justification for a raise, and I also feel like that me and my daughter, well, my daughter's handicapped and she didn't get a raise this year. We're living on a fixed income of hardly nothing, and we barely have enough to buy food, and you want a raise. You know, I feel like that you ought to think about it a little more, because I think that we need more physical responsibility, and the BRT was one problem that I feel like needs to be reconciled with, because we don't need more buses because the buses aren't even full. So I feel like that you ought to think about that before you say, okay, we need to give them another lot of money, and we already support the bus routes with our money before, and so why give them some more money? Because they're not filling the buses, they don't come often enough to, if you miss one of the buses, you have to wait an hour before you can get another one. So to me, needs to be adjusted before you give anything to the bus routes. And your trip to Switzerland is very, if we don't know who paid for it, you're not telling us. So I think that needs to be talked about among yourselves. You need to be honest and true in the things you do. Thank you.
I would be interested in giving us some specific responses to your questions now.
My name is Nelson Abbott. I'm an Elk Ridge City Councilman, third term. I am here representing the people of my town to let you know how we feel about the things that we've seen go on in this county. BRT is one of those things that I just, for the life of me, cannot even figure out why we're even going down this path. You know, it takes a big man to stand up for what is right. It takes an even bigger man to back off and admit that they were wrong. And I encourage you to do that. The idea that we're going to put a bus and run it up and down this avenue here, I'd like to see what the traffic could be like after a BYU game or before a BYU game. I can't even imagine constricting the traffic more. Now, to your pay raise, you know, I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, come on. I have never had a pay raise in my position as a public servant where I voted for it. Right now, I'm not making money. I gave up my income to come here to let you know how I feel about it. Right now, I feel like we have one county commissioner who represents us all the time, and another that represents us part-time, and another that just flat out said what he needed to say to get elected. Once he got elected, he just reverted 180 degrees, which is unacceptable. And I will do everything that I can to make sure the next time we have a convention that someone else is in that seat. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Wendy Bagley, and I'm from Eagle Mountain. I'd like to do my comments in two parts. One is to share what Heather Williamson sent me. She is from Saratoga Springs. She is on the plane to DC right now, otherwise she would be here. She wrote this: I am concerned about Commissioner Ellertson's taxpayer-funded trip to Switzerland on a private jet and the potential misuse of taxpayer funds.
Was not taxpayer funded.
I am also personally disappointed in Commissioner Graves, who campaigned on restoring fiscal responsibility and stopping the spending. I quote from Graves at the Commission debate for Seat A on April 4th, 2014, quote, "We have a spending problem and I can no longer sit there. I have 3 small girls and I need to fight for them so the future is bright for them," unquote, or end quote. You talked about how our debt already won't be paid off until 2039, so please, Commissioner Graves, do the right thing for your 3 girls and vote against more taxpayer spending and vote no on this proposed salary and benefit increase for you and for all elected officials. As for my comments, Dear Santa, please send me a $5,400 pay increase. Signed, Greg Graves. Dear Greg, your friend Larry Ellertson asked for the same thing, but he also asked for a 15% increase last year as well. You already make more than double what your average citizen makes, and I'm kind of short on money growing trees. Your taxpayers are also suggesting I give you coal instead. Please learn how to cut your expenses. Sincerely, Santa.
I'm just gonna take just a minute here and I'm gonna address a couple things if you don't mind. One, everybody in that audience has never taken 1 second to call me and ask me how I vote. I've never said I was giving myself a raise, and we've actually never discussed it. What I have talked about is a 2% COLA increase for our employees. That has been the discussion. There is a law on the books that does say that every year, like all of the judges, that it is built in. It doesn't mean it has to be, but that is the law. That is what the debate has been. So I have never said, and not one of you can prove, that I have said I'm going to give myself a raise. That has never come out of any commissioner's mouth. In fact, when we talked about step increases, all 3 of us unanimously said no. As to the Snowbird trip, let me give you a little bit of information that I know. This is garbage, some of the crap that Mark Allen is spewing. And yes, I'm talking directly to you, Mark, because the commission met with the attorneys last year to decide should they use your dime to go on this trip and learn about transportation ways to fund.
This trip
or
was
should
in
they pay for themselves?
2013.
I'm speaking, Mark. I didn't interrupt you.
2013,
Thank
sir.
you. And they made that decision under legal counsel. So the fact is they did the right responsible thing and paid for their trip to the best that they could, meaning whatever receipts or options were available, they did.
Because I was attacked, can I rebut?
Is there any public comment?
Yes.
Well, this is not a debate.
I absolutely, he attacked me.
Well,
As opposed to what you've been doing to me.
This trip was in 2013, so meeting with the attorneys last year was totally irrelevant.
no, he's
I did.
talking about the.
I'm talking about before they went.
Show us the paper
I don't
trail.
need to show you anything.
You haven't shown us anything in our grant requests. You piggybacked on theirs. You were on the Board of Adjustments. You've allowed Snowbird to advance in the canyon. We've done multiple grammar requests to you. It was the 5th grammar request to Larry Ellertson when he was on vacation that the Snowbird trip came.
100% with.
I'm speaking now.
Listen, we're going to have decorum in this meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's keep it that way.
I'm asking for that. You don't know what you're talking about. You weren't in office in 2013. You have not responded to our grammar request for your Board of Adjustments, email trails, nothing. You get a D-. Okay? You've heard other people talk about other issues. My only focus has been on protect and preserve American Fort Canyon.